is the 77 WABC minicast.
We love bringing on KT McFarland every Friday. I think she's the smartest political person out there. KT, good Friday morning. How are you?
I'm terrific. Thank you.
You are terrific. So tell me what exactly the president accomplished last night, and to Noam and Josh Shapiro's point, if he's been so upset, and I agree with him, that I do think the Chinese do meddle. Well, he had his opportunity in China not that long ago to walk up to Xi and say, hey, buddy, we know what you're doing, cut it out. So what did he accomplish last night? And if he is so upset, why didn't he approach Xi when he was in China?
Yeah, I'm scratching my head. I just don't understand it. It's disinformation campaign. Look, everybody does this disinformation campaigns. The Russians, the Chinese, they understand that the great strength of America is that we're self-governing, a self-governing democracy. But there's also, in many ways, our greatest weakness, because it can be countries, ideologies can scramble our brain. And China particularly uses TikTok. I'm much more concerned with China using TikTok to sort of targeted ads to scramble people's brains, hate America, love America, this aspect of America, that aspect of America, really, than I am about all the other stuff. But it's a disinformation campaign. The Russians have been doing it since the beginning of the Soviet Union, because their feeling is that the United States can never be destroyed from without, but it could be destroyed from within. And so they're trying to foment division, animosity, doubt, distrust of the whole constitution and democracy and the electoral system. And when Xi Jinping came out last week and said, well, we need to have state-directed artificial intelligence, it's state just means that those are the guys in charge. I mean, that's the whole scam of communism, is that we'll be the ones in charge and you'll take our orders, as opposed to we're going to take orders from you, you're going to take orders from us.
Right.
I think, to me, the more important speech that was given last week or yesterday was Marco Rubio's, which was a stirring defense of democracy and personal integrity and accountability and entrepreneurial spirit, and it was a condemnation of the whole global leftist movement, which only seeks to tear down. It's driven by envy and greed, and is the worst. It brings out the worst angels of men's nature, to paraphrase Lincoln.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I love Trump. I love him, but I really love Rubio. Like, I love this guy so much, and I don't like Vance. I don't like him, okay? And I thought his performance with Joe Rogan was gross. I'm sick and tired. I hear the same garbage he put out there 2 days ago at Rogan from people like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. You're the vice president of the United States. If you're going to go out there and talk about all this Israeli money being funneled that made this decision, it wasn't the Israeli money that made the decision. It was the Iranians. They refuse to cooperate. They don't want to play ball. So when J.D. Vance says, well, I don't take my marching orders from Tucker Carlson, and then he sounds exactly like Tucker Carlson, come on. Enough of this already. Enough of J.D. Vance and Tucker and all these people. Marco Rubio needs to run, and he needs to win. You may feel differently, but I am sick of J.D. Vance.
Well, I'm not going to speak about J.D. Vance one way or the other, but I want to just tell you an example of something that happened to me years and years ago. It was when President Obama recognized Cuba. And I was the Fox News national security analyst, had my own show on Fox, what's now called a podcast. It's called DEFCON 3. And so Marco Rubio's office called and said, could I interview him? He wanted to make a statement on Cuba against what President Obama was doing, and he wanted to do it in a setting where I would interview him. So we did it in New York at the Women's National Republican Club, this old, beautiful, old, but a little bit dilapidated building in Midtown Manhattan.
Yeah, I know it. Yep.
But because it was Marco Rubio, he was a senator. They had a lot of cameras there, not that huge an audience, but the whole point was he wanted to tell the world that he was against what President Obama was doing with regard to Cuba. So we walked up the back staircase, the service staircase, to 3 floors up to get to the floor that we were going to be making the speech on. He was going to be making the speech on, and I was going to interview him after the speech. And all along the wall, very narrow, remember, old building, narrow staircases, all along the wall, assembled at attention were all of the Hispanic workers of that place.
Love it.
They were the maids. They were the janitors. They were the guys who washed the dishes and cleared the tables. They were all Hispanic. They did not touch him. They did not say anything. They didn't try to take a selfie. They just stood at attention to honor him.
Awesome.
And to honor what he became. His mother was a cleaning lady. His dad was a bartender.
Yep.
And at that moment, I thought, whoa, this man will be president someday. Look at the inspiration and hope he gives to the people who came to this country, fled whatever they fled, came to this country, made something of themselves, and they look at him and think, my son could do this, my daughter could do this. And it was just a very telling, poignant moment. And he stopped along the staircase. We're all crunched up together, a little narrow staircase. And he, shakes a hand, puts a hand on somebody else's shoulder. And it was just a moving moment. And he handled it so well. And at that point, I knew not only would Marco Rubio be president someday, he should be president
What a
someday.
great story.
Who knows when?
Well, that's a great story. You say who knows when. So you don't have to critique J.D. Vance. You don't have to compliment J.D. Vance. Who do you think right now, if in fact they are both going to run, who do you think right now would be the more attractive candidate to the Republican voters?
Oh, I think we just have to wait and see. How does Iran work out? I think it will work out extremely well. But it's going to be.
But hold on. But wait. If Iran works out extremely well, okay, and Brian Kilmeade told me he thinks Monday could be a big day. I'll get your thoughts on that. If Iran works out extremely well, JD gets no credit for that. JD, I know this for a fact, not a rumor, for a fact. Somebody in the room told me he was a pain in the ass the whole way. He didn't want this conflict with Iran. By the way, this may be just a coincidence, but when the IRGC last week called for the assassination of President Trump, Marco Rubio, Laura Loomer, Ben Shapiro, Lindsey Graham, guess who wasn't on the list? J.D. Vance. So if Iran works out, it ain't because of J.D. He wanted no part of this.
I understand the sentiment of that wing of the Republican Party. In fact, I share it. I was very much against the Iraq war, after about the first 3 or 4 years when it was clear. I went to Afghanistan in about 2005, 6, and it was clear to me we were never going to win this war, that we were an occupying force, that we had gone about it all the wrong way, and the idea that we were going to, quote, build democracy in a country like that was just a hopeless waste of money, time, blood, and treasure. So I come from the wing of being very cautious and skeptical of foreign engagements in foreign wars. I even wrote there's what's called the Weinberger Principles of War that said before we commit American forces overseas, we should meet a certain number of tests. And do the American people really want this? Do we have the objective to win? Do we have the resources to win? Is it in our vital national interests? But I look at the Iran situation, and there's where I would make the exception. Maybe J.D. Vance didn't. I would.
No, I'll tell you why, though. But let me tell you why. Let me tell you why.
Iran's going to get nukes.
Right, but besides that, you're right about Iraq, and everybody else was wrong. Just you and Bernard were right about that. I understand, KT, why you would have been against Iraq and Iran years ago, okay? My issue with J.D. is not only did he not care if Iran got nukes, but he was against this because him, like many others, believe this is Bibi's war. This is not our war. This is Bibi's war. When I hear that, it makes my hair stand up, and I'm bald. This is where all this anger you're hearing this morning comes from with J.D. Vance. Because you can't fool me, you can't lie to me. It ain't going to happen. I'm not Israel first. I'm America first. But you bet your butt I'm Israel second. I'm Israel second. And when you do stuff like that, it's going to make me angry. So it's not that J.D. measured all of the pros and cons and figured out this is good, this is bad. He didn't care about the nukes. He didn't want us to fight Bibi's war. You know that.
I don't know what his motivations are, and I can't speculate, but this was not Bibi's war. Maybe it's partially Bibi's war, but it's our war, because nobody else had the courage that Donald Trump had to say, enough. Iran is not going to be allowed to have nuclear weapons. We went into it hoping that it would be more of a Venezuela situation, that maybe we could get rid of the top-tier guys, the second-tier guys would say, okay, great, we got it, we'll change we're going to give up the nukes, but we're going to have a better economy. We'll we'll be a normalized nation. But that's not happened. So what it has done, though, I mean, no wars happen the way you think they're going to happen because the other guy gets a vote. But what's happened now is it's given the president and the United States the opportunity to emerge from this, and we will emerge from it victorious. There's just no questions. Questions the only matter of time. Is what happens next, and we will emerge from this with expanded Abraham Accords, with an entire Middle East alliance that is aimed against Iran or against this version of Iran. And at the same time, we are going to end up at the end of this with the United States controlling the world's energy supply. Well, everybody's focused on Iran and Bibi's war. Have you noticed the numbers on American oil exports?
Yes.
They've gone up 30%.
Yes.
We now are the world's largest crude oil exporter, refined oil exporter, liquefied natural gas exporter. And it's not by like 2%, 7%. It's like 20, 30%. We own the world energy supply. Yep. And why does that matter? For the same reason you and Bruce Blakeman were talking about artificial intelligence and quantum computing. You need energy to be the leader in that business, and we have the energy.